happening, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Bison Break. I'm your host, Rob Black Jr., and today we have a fantastic show. We have the honor to speak to someone that's been inducted into the 2024 Howard University Hall of Fame, but also was a very key contributor to the basketball teams from 1985 to 1989. So today, help me welcome Yolonda, Yogi, Lockamy to the Bison Break.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. And yourself?
I'm well. I can't complain. I really want to thank you for jumping on today. I know, there's a lot of things you could be doing, but you definitely, we definitely are grateful for having your voice today to be able to, talk about women's basketball and talk about your induction into the Hall of Fame, of Howard University's Hall of Fame. But just to kind of, set the ground and let people know who you are, explain to us just, a little bit about your background, you growing up and what led you into play basketball.
So I'm from Zebulon, North Carolina. And when I was about 5 years old, my uncle put a basketball court in the backyard. And he made the goal about 12 feet. And I just started.
Now you're 5 years old. Look, I got 4 kids, and my 10-year-old just being able to shoot on a 10-footer.
When I tell you, my feelings were so hurt. I said, "But that's not how it's supposed to be." And he said, "Well, it'll make you stronger." I said, "Oh," but needless to say, I shot on that 12-foot goal for years, and I played basketball all through elementary school, all through high school, and ended up at the good old HU. And so, that's a little bit of my basketball background.
So I guess even before you even get to Howard University, I mean, what was it like, because we're talking about you came to Howard 85. So we're talking about in the 70s playing basketball, and it's not basketball. Just to set the tone, it's not the same as we're starting to see it more now. But what was it like in the 70s going through the ranks? Because women's basketball was not something that was being promoted, especially for young girls to play or young women to play basketball. What was that? What was some of those challenges going through the rankings, going into middle school, into high school, and even potentially looking at college?
Yeah. So in elementary school, I played with the boys. That was my outlet. There were only boys playing. Right. And so it didn't matter the weather. It didn't matter anything. It was after school, drop your books, don't do your homework like you're supposed to, and just go outside. Right. Yep. And so as a kid, I was on the boys all-star basketball team.
Okay.
And so, they had to make a couple of concessions for the little jerseys and and all of that. But I just loved the game. Right. And even in high school, it was, it wasn't the same. We would have people peppered throughout the stadium, but it wasn't like it is now where you have sold out stadiums, which is amazing and awesome. The growth of the game is, I love it. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And long overdue. Long overdue, because we had to focus on fundamentals, right?
Right.
As opposed to being able to dunk and doing all of those types of things. But now, even with the growth of the game and the evolution of the sport, you see some females now just dunking like anybody else. And so it's an awesome time to be involved and immersed in the game.
Yeah. When you were coming up the ranks, were there any female basketball players that you kind of looked up to that you said, hey, that is somebody that I want to emulate my game after, or someone that inspired you? Or maybe it wasn't a female athlete. It could have been Magic Johnson or Larry Bird, anything like that.
I guess I'm a weird bird. I liked Mo Cheeks because I thought he was an awesome point guard with the 76ers. I was a Charles Oakley fan because I loved the people that did the dirty work. Not a lot of accolades, but yeah, Magic was good. He was the showboater or whatever. But when it came down to doing those intangibles,
Mm-hmm.
I always looked at players like that. And in terms of a female that I really liked was Trudy Lacey, who played for North Carolina State at the time.
Trudy Lacey.
And Trudy Lacey. Yeah.
What was so significant about Trudy Lacey?
It was just her game. The way she got players involved. She was a scorer too.
Okay.
But it was just her overall game. I thought it was just amazing. And she was the star of North Carolina State, which was one of my teams at the time. And although I didn't get a chance to go and see her play, right. I think maybe once or twice on TV, but even back then you didn't get a chance to actually see women playing sports like that on TV. But following the game in terms of the newspaper, because that was the information.
That was the way you learned stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Because even think about it, even if you look at the NBA, because the NBA was still just coming to its own. But remember, they were doing tape delays of the finals. And I remember coming home after school, and this is like 85, 86, and watching the Celtics and the Lakers play, and it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't prime time like we think, the NBA
right now
at 9:30 or whatever have you. It was tape delayed, and it was just on regular TV at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, I was a James Worthy fan.
That top step was mean too.
Yeah, it was cold.
yeah. I was a Lakers fan back then.
Oh yeah. They had a team, man. And I think that's what I loved about it too, was the camaraderie and the chemistry that you could form. Now the Lakers, when they passed the ball, I'm a passer, and so just to see that the ball movement and the flow. Because there's something about that flow of the game. And when you're in that flow, it's almost like euphoric, And so those are the types of things that stood out to me as a kid.
When you were you were considering looking at different colleges, what made Howard stand out to you? Why did you choose Howard over any other particular school? Or even why did you even select the HBCU on top of that too?
Well, actually, I was headed to North Carolina Central. In Durham. Yep. And my cousin, who was going to Howard at the time, she called me and she said, yo, we have a good team, but we don't have a point guard. And I said, okay. And she said, I'm going to talk to Coach. And Coach Tyler. And Coach Tyler called me and she was like, Yogi, I hear that you're a point guard. I was at a 2A high school. So, it was very small. Not a lot of notoriety. I did make all Metro in terms of being in high school or whatever. We went to the state championships, but we didn't win. But I always still thrive to play, right? And so when Coach called, she said, I want to see you play, but I can't come down, and I think it was like after the season, right? So she said, can you come up here? And I said, obviously, let me ask my mom. And, I'm from the country, so we don't travel like onesie twosies, right?
Right.
We all hop in a van and we do a road trip.
Yep.
And so we came up and
is this your first time up in DC?
Absolutely.
Oh wow.
Not the first time in DC, but the first time at Howard.
Okay, at Howard. Okay.
And actually, where I was from, I wasn't aware of like the Mecca like my cousin was. Like she thrived to come to Howard. And I was like, why are you trying to go way up there? We have A&T, and she was like, nope, I want to go to Howard. And so, and I looked up to her because I'm an only child. So when she's excited about something, I'm like, okay, my interest is piqued a little bit. Yeah, I pay attention. Yeah, so we came up. My family again.
Yep.
The posse, right?
It's so foreign now. Like I have conversations with friends, and I said, like I'm born and raised in the DMV area, and my father, he's from Washington D.C. So a lot of times we would have these big, every Sunday we have dinner together, and all the family would come together. We'll be on Peabody Street and we have our dinner. But then as times morphed on, everyone started. It became quarterly. Then it just became the holidays. Now it's I see when I see you.
Right.
So when you're saying that, I think it's important to bring it out because family was such a tight nucleus. Like we did everything together. We supported. We it wasn't, if you weren't doing that, it was foreign. So when you're saying it now, it's like I understand because I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was very important, especially for me as a kid, because my mom and dad divorced when I was about 4 or 5 years old. So again, not only was basketball my passion, it was my outlet, it was my therapy, right? So when we came up to Howard and coach wanted me to scrimmage with the team, oh my God, I was just shaking. And I remember scrimmaging. I had on my Jordans and my socks were pulled up to my knees. Back then you pull your socks way up.
Yep.
And we ran a couple of games. And after it was over, coach turned to my mom and she said, "I'm going to offer Yolonda a full scholarship." Ooh. And I was like, and my mom just grabbed her and hugged her. And because the struggle was real at the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when she made that offer, I was like, wow, I'm coming to DC. I didn't even question whether or not now I was going to Central or if I was coming to Howard. It was like, I was like, okay.
You was all in the Mecca too, right?
I'm Bison bound now, right? So, yeah, it was a culture shock.
Yeah, and that's how I was going. My next question is, what was it like? You're coming from the rural South. We're talking 85. You're coming up. What was it like? Because we started to see, the proliferation of black people going into middle class and things along that line. And DC was a hub for that, because we had the federal government. And a lot of us were able to benefit of that. And then Marion Barry, which is instrumental to open up the DC government for a lot of local folks too. Explain what it was like coming from the South, you coming up into DC, and just even the time period. What was it like for you stepping onto the ground?
Scared the bejesus out of me. When I came, I think the first thing I noticed was, and when I came to Howard, it was everybody was dressed to the nines, right? People were going to the School of Business. They were in suits, ties, dresses, pumps, walking across the yard. I remember one of the ladies, Kim Esmond, I think that was her name, going to the School of Business. That girl would have on pumps every day. And I'm like, wow. But Howard, you wanted to do something. You wanted to be something even more than what you were when you came, because there was a level of excellence here. And I was let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
The first probably 2 or 3 months, I cried every day.
Wow.
Because I wanted to go home.
You were homesick.
I was so homesick. And it wasn't the little tears, the little baby tears. It was,
I want my mama.
I want my mama kind of thing. Because, coming from where I'm from, you walk down the street, you speak to people and they say, hi, how you doing? It wasn't like that up here. I was like, hi, how are you? And it was like, and so there was a cultural shift for me, definitely. Something I wasn't used to. But at the same time, I knew I was in the right place, if that makes sense. I was scared. I didn't talk a lot. I was very reserved. But I am an observer by nature. I have to feel it out and see what the lay of the land is. And it took me a while. I think the first year, it was just getting acclimated to everything. There were demands in terms of basketball that I wasn't used to. there were demands in the classroom that I wasn't used to.
Mhm.
And there was a whole culture that I had never seen before. I didn't know what go-go was, you know. And my roommate was from Maryland, and she was like, yo, you don't like this? You know, I was like, no, I don't like that music. But now I love go-go.
Mhm.
So, you know, everything was different.
Mhm.
But, you know, I was in my little bubble, and it just took a while for me to just emerge and
Yes.
to, you know, just to find my way, which is
Yeah,
what college is about anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, I can imagine. I mean, because like my folks, my mother's from the South, and she's from
Mhm.
a small rural town too. So you know, I experienced the other way around, just going to visit down south, and you know, this area they said was the city. I'm like, this is like not the city. Like McDonald's is like way down there somewhere.
Right.
There's
We didn't have a
line around here. Like there's a party line.
Right. We didn't even have a McDonald's. Right. We had to wait until we played other cities to actually. McDonald's was like the treat for us.
You know what? You're right. We had a Dairy Queen. It was a Dairy Queen.
There you go. Yep.
It wasn't a McDonald's. Because I remember when I went back in the 90s, they had a McDonald's then, but when I was in the 80s, no, it was a Dairy Queen. Everybody went to the Dairy Queen for everything.
There you go. We had a Hardee's and a Dairy Queen, and that was it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Like what? Like you know, just thinking about what are some of the big misunderstandings that that people had about women's basketball, particularly within that time period that you were playing at Howard University, that you always had to overcome or fight against?
Well, one was that our quality of basketball wasn't like anybody else's. It was like we were always deemed subpar, right? And so you get to a point where you don't hear it. You know, you can feel the vibe, but again, when you know your worth, you go out and you prove it just by winning. And I think that's the main thing. And even now, because the quality of play has increased, you see the respect, right? Well, we had some respect even back then when we played, because you talk about legends that I played with, Darlene Bill Norris now, and Vanessa Graham Jenkins, and Karen Wilkins. So I played with those ladies, and we were winning. When you
Boy,
win,
you were winning. Boy, you were winning. Let's not understate that. What I have here: 85, 87, 88, 89 MEAC tournament champs. So yeah, you was putting in some work, and you was on the 50th anniversary. Well, you was a finalist for the 50th anniversary all team as well. So you were putting in some work. You put in some real work there.
We did pretty good, I think. So that's how you silence the critics.
Absolutely.
And because you can't focus on people that don't believe in you. You focus on the ones that do. And all you need is a few. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we tried to do. And I think we proved that during that time.
What made those teams so special? That you saw that sparked that difference to be those champions. Because I mean, it's a lot of work, but then like you said, you had to come together as a nucleus for excellence. What do you think made your team so special?
We cared about each other outside of basketball. And then we had coach who pulled us together. And she knew how to motivate. It wasn't always pretty, but it was effective, right? And so when you care about somebody, you want the best for them. And so when we all come together, as we say, one team, one fight, and nobody could come between the Bison wall that we built. We had some interesting encounters with some teams along the way, but but again, that brought us closer.
Right, absolutely.
And so when you have that, then you go to bat. You want to win. And if I'm putting it on the line, she's putting it on the line, everybody is doing the same thing. It's inevitable, right?
Right. So help me understand too. I mean, you talked about the significance of coach. What was such the impact that coach, that your coach had for you at that time period that helped you evolve as not only just a better basketball player, but as a person? Because we know that coaching is such a fundamental aspect of a lot of student athletes, because you're away from home, and now you're away from your family, but now you have this one person that's almost like the guardian for you guys, for you folks.
Right.
Explain what coach meant to you during your tenure, especially as you guys were rising up in the ranks and winning these tournaments.
Coach was, like you said, she was that maternal figure away from home for all of us. But more importantly, she had our backs. When again, you mentioned earlier, what brought us together. A lot of times when you hear those naysayers and you have all of that, we knew that she had our back. She was our advocate, and you need an advocate, especially, back then we needed one more so than you do now. She is a beautiful spirit. She cares about people.
Right.
And that goes a long way. Like, it wasn't just about winning. That was a byproduct of all of the other things that she poured into us. And so when you have somebody that cares about you, you want to do the best for them too.
Yeah.
And we knew that, the microscope was on her to bring home some championships. Right. She didn't say anything about it, but you can feel, you know what's going on. You know that, you want to keep somebody around, then you produce. And she didn't have to say anything, but we knew that we were the only ones winning a lot at that time. And so you can feel certain vibes or whatever, but again, you move forward in your purpose and you don't worry about what other people are saying, and things will work out for you good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it did for us. And she, as a result of that, she broke records, she carved a path for women's basketball at Howard. And that I don't ever think will be surpassed, or it will be a long time before it is. As Lauryn Hill says, she had that thing, she knew how to make it work.
Yeah.
And Coach Spencer too. I have to give props to her. Okay. Linda Spencer, she was the Robin to Coach's Batman. She was that perfect complement. You had people like Robin Duncan, who stayed around even after she graduated, pouring into the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, just circle back on, to you and, in your accomplishments. On November the 1st, we are having the Hall of Fame induction and banquet, and you're going to be honored, for all the contributions that you've contributed to Howard University's women's basketball team and all the success that they had during that period. I mean, what does it mean to you to be, coming from North Carolina, that small town, but now you are, one of the greats, especially with all the assists that you had in your career? What does it mean to be inducted into the Hall of Fame?
I'm truly, I feel so fortunate. I never thought that I would be recognized for assists. primarily because I couldn't score. You got to know your ministry, as they say. My ministry wasn't scoring, right? So you take what you're blessed with and you try to make the best of it. And that's what I tried to do. And I feel so fortunate for that, because typically when you assist somebody, they get the credit, but you don't get the credit. Mm-hmm. And this time, they've gotten the credit. You talk about Karen Wilkins, Beanie, Vanessa, Darlene, all of whom I played with. They're already in the Hall. And so to get this honor, it just means a lot to me. I feel truly, truly blessed. Yeah.
Absolutely. You can't have the whole team. Got to bring the point guard in there. Look, we ain't complete. Got to set up, baby.
I feel fortunate. Yeah. I just.
When was the last time you were able to get with your team? You know, your teammates. When was the last time you were able to get with your teammates and talk with them?
When was the last time we were together? We had a fundraiser. We did the. Was it last? My times are so off, but I think it was last year?
Okay.
When we were out, or was it earlier this year? I think it was earlier this year when we did the fundraiser for the program. We raised about $100,000. Wow. And so we all came to the game, and we presented the check. I think it was at halftime during that game. So a lot of us came for that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a good segue. The Bison Express is, significance of Bison Express is that we're a supplemental arm of the sports program, the athletic program, to help provide resources, that otherwise the university may not be able to fill in, but, such as new uniforms, or we sent some teams to overseas so they can play in different tournaments and things along that line. But what is the significance to you regarding Bison Express, or even just, giving back to Howard University athletics program? What does it mean to you?
Well, I know what Howard did for me. It put me on a path that I probably would never have been on before. Coming to DC, staying in DC, having an awesome career in law enforcement, being able to retire. Had I not come to Howard, none of that would have happened. So in terms of Bison Express, for them to augment the program in so many different ways, it's needed. And in my opinion, and I can speak for me, appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Because
augmenting that program allows other people opportunities that they may not have gotten otherwise. And so it's doing a great work. And you don't know who you will touch. Like, I never thought, coming from class of 85, I think we had 60 or 70 people in my high school class, that I would now be sitting talking to you about the Hall of Fame. So if anything, I would say to the Express, keep chugging along, because you never know what person you can change or help along their plight in this life.
And I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what does Howard mean to you?
Howard means to me opportunity. That's the main thing, because it opened up doors for me that I wouldn't have otherwise had a chance to walk through. And it's one of those places where it could be intimidating. Well, it was for me, but I found my place, and it allowed me to grow, to evolve, and eventually just become the person that I am today. So Howard is a good foundational tool to start your personal journey, is the best way that I can describe it. And it's an awesome place to do that.
For let's say we have some younger folks that may be watching that are thinking about coming to Howard University or thinking about joining the women's basketball team, what advice would you give to them?
Don't hesitate. If you love the game,
that's big. Because in this day, it's so many distractions.
Yeah.
I really want to bring it like that. So many distractions now that suck away your time. And I read something earlier today where they said procrastination is one of the resources for poverty. Because a lot of times what happens is we'll keep pushing things off, and then time moves on, and we haven't done anything. We're still standing there. So when you say that, it really resonated. Things I was thinking today was like, you just got to go. So to say that, that's impactful. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I had to jump on.
Yeah, no worries. They say God can't steer a parked car, right? So just move. I was scared as hell. That's honestly.
I'm sure.
but I knew there were certain things that I wanted to do, and basketball was one of them. And so this was a great place to do that. Look at the history of Howard's women's basketball in particular. It speaks for itself. And if you want to come to somewhere where there's already legacy, where you'll have the support, you have Bison Express, you have great coaches, administrators, just do it. Because again, and you mentioned it, we can always be sidetracked. We can always follow somebody else's desire for us too, as opposed to following our own. Yes. And I think that's the other thing is, we're in an age where there's so much outside noise that we don't know what we want internally, right? So be still, listen to that little thing that churns on the inside of you, follow your gut, and move. And just move. Yeah. Because you never know why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. If Howard is calling you, answer the call.
So yeah, just to kind of wind things down, is there any way how can people connect with you, whether it's on social media or anything along that lines? How can people have a conversation or follow what you're doing?
Yeah, so again, I'm not big on social media, but you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Okay. My business partner and I have a couple of things brewing. I don't want to tip the hat just yet, but stay tuned. I will be putting some things out on LinkedIn, and you can reach me there. We're excited about some of the things that we're about to launch. So definitely look me up and reach out.
Okay. And Yolonda, Lockamy, Yolonda with two O's. Not
YOLO. YOLO.
But we can find you on LinkedIn, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
We'll find you on LinkedIn. Definitely stay connected with you there. But I thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have a conversation about your things that you've done in the past with Howard University, and then even where things that are going to happen at the induction ceremony and things that you're looking to do in the future. So thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, now, thank you for watching another episode of the Bison Break. We want to thank our guest today, Yolonda Yogi Lockamy, for jumping on the podcast today and explain some of the things that led her to become a women's basketball player, just in general, but also what led her to Howard University. Be sure to continue to follow us on all your social media channels at Bison Express. Visit us at bisonexpress.org. I'm your host, Rob Black Jr. I check you out on the other side of your goals.